Thanks everyone for being here. It feels really good to be back. I don't know if many of you remember me, but I reached out to Dylan and the Hack in the Box crew in '07 and said, hey, would you guys be open to having this weird new group out of the US called Tool do lockpicking down here in Malaysia? Now it's Thailand, but they said, sure. And it honestly changed my entire life in the hacking community and, cybersecurity industry for me and a lot of my friends. And from what I keep getting told is that a lot of people from Malaysia, they just walk up to me and say, thank you for bringing lockpicking to Malaysia. And I'm like, I don't think I did that. I think you already had locksmiths, but it turns out it had quite an impact, and I really appreciate that. So that was 2007, and now it's 2023. A lot of years in between, and people ask me, aren't you that lockpicking guy? And I'm like, yes, I picked locks for monies. I taught for monies. But nowadays, in between that time, I had a red team company called Rift Recon, where we developed a lot of offense tools for physical and digital. I had a darknet monitoring company called Darksum, where I'd figured out how to enumerate every Tor hidden service address at the time. And I did a project through DARPA. And a lot of different things happened in the 2010s. And then only a few years ago, after I closed that, I had already been cracking crypto wallets, which when people hear that, they get a little like, what is that? And I'm like, it could be in Python, it could be using AES. And what do you mean? And it's actually the same stuff you've seen before that you would normally hit in pen testing. It's not really a shocker. It's just they're using different words. So as an armchair cryptographer, I would say myself, I was surprised that a lot of the stuff you're going to see here are things you would have seen in the 90s and 2000s and 2010s, the types of attacks you would have pulled. And I think it'd be really educational. So anyway, today, it's not just about the OneKey. It turns out we're going to cover a few more things. That's why there's a free prize inside. It's not just crypto. So let's get started. So anyway, I covered a little bit about myself. One thing I think is really cute is I'm going to Burning Man. So I flew in a few days ago, and I'm flying right back out to get to Burning Man. I'm going to be running the 50K. Last year I ran it. Almost heat stroked out in the last lap. Got a 5:35. Hopefully I'll do a little better this year. I'm also a member of the MacGyvers Union. Turns out there's a camp there that actually has licensed the name MacGyver from the production company. And they have badges, and you have to do little hackish things, and then they sign you. And I actually have, if you check afterwards, I actually have a dog tag from them that I stamped with my member number on here. It's great. You get out there, they're like, you lockpick and teach? I'm like, yes. And they were a little floored with all the stuff I brought. But anyway, my co-founder is Tom. Not his name, but a 20-plus year veteran of cybersecurity, hardware security, a lot of experience in FPGAs. The team itself, when you go to the website, not a lot of us are there because, as we've learned, in the banking industry, a lot of executives and staff have security for reasons. Well, as you've probably been noticing in the cryptocurrency ecosystem and industry, there's been a lot of safety issues. And so most of our partners, and there's 15 of them now, are not public, just a handful of them. So the ones that are public, we don't have access to the actual keys for spending that money off. I have access to the company bank accounts, which don't have crypto. We're also the world's first institutional cryptocurrency rescue company, and people ask what that is. What that means is, in the United States, there's different regulation bodies like FinCEN, FINRA, SEC, and groups like that. Banks follow the regulations set on by FinCEN, which is the Financial Intelligent Crime Enforcement Network. They're the people in the U.S. with the guns that go to the bank and said, why did you transfer that money? It said suspicious. And so they set the rules of how you do objective tiers of checking if a customer has a background that has them on a sanctions list or something. So we check for all of that, which means about 30% of our customers that we come in, we reject for one reason or another, whether they're on a sanctions list or the money clearly looks stolen because we can trace to it. And we've only been doing this for a little while, but I don't know, it seems to be gathering steam and like it a lot. Anyway, so let's get started. So last year, I also co-founded the conference Off the Chain, the world's first blockchain security conference. At that time, we weren't very open about our lab because as we were getting underway, we had a lot of safety concerns. Now we have 5 labs. We now finally actually put on YouTube, me doing kind of an MTV Cribs tour of one of our labs, our electrical engineering research lab. It doesn't have all the equipment. We just did an upgrade. And hopefully in September we'll shoot some new stuff and you get to see a lot of the toys. But we have some really nice toys and a lot of things that you think that are just you can do this with that. And absolutely. It's just how you use it. So, but anyway, let's get into a lot of the fun stuff today. So, one of my dear friends and mentors, Chris Weisopel, or Weld Pond, one of the Loft members who are in Congress, and like Joe was. And Joe, thank you for your service back in Congress back in the day. No, seriously, it's like changed a lot for a lot of people because of that. But Chris said this in a meeting we had at work, because he's one of our advisors, when we were describing how when generating cryptographic keys, you can't patch those. So when we had like people saw the SSH key generation issue a while ago, or the Debian SSL key issue, the key pool was so small that you can just generate all the keys instead of having a heat death of the universe calculation like target. So it turns out we're finding that there aren't enough good cryptographers to go around to check the code in all these projects. And so he cracked that line out. I was like, can we put that up there? And eventually, in a long enough time horizon, every crypto wallet becomes vulnerable. Now, it's not just because of the keys, it's for different reasons. But the thing is, as we're now counting and indexing in our own private repo, there's well over 10,000 different unique crypto wallets out there, hardware and software. And those also include web libraries like JavaScript libraries generating keys. Can you guess how many actual real cryptographers in the world can proof all of those reliably for every release in the world? Here's a better question. How many projects do you think have engineers on them of 10,000 each? Generally one or two. So when people are putting like billions of dollars through an application, as you're going to see, this is where we're getting into a lot of trouble in cryptocurrency, where I think it's really exciting right now for everyone here in the room and who's watching this later to start reviewing all these things, because like it's just the breadth and depth of the scope of the problems we're finding and how fast we're finding them is breathtaking. So anyway, today we're going to talk about miracles. Not those miracles. For those of you who remember the meme years ago with the ICP. But if you are curious about that, I left a note. So anyway, today we call miracles exploits. That's what our customers like to say. We do vulnerability development for crypto wallets to get the keys back open for consumer clients. So we have clients that come in who've lost their entire life savings, who are like retired psychologists. They're about to get a job at Walmart because they just lost $1.5 million of their life savings. They've retired and they forgot a PIN or a code on something. And when we get back in, like they are crying on the phone. And I don't know in any way in the past where any of us in the room or online could have been paid so well to do something for someone you get to know over the phone or over a video call and change their life and not have to be weird about where your tools or techniques goes. That's why I like waking up every day on Unciphered. So we like to think of it like this. So there's a movie called The Saint. If you haven't seen it, awesome heist flick. But basically, Val Kilmer plays a reformed thief. And in the very beginning of the movie, he has like this Catholic bent because of his upbringing. And he says to become a saint, you must perform 3 miracles. Now, I had this slide last year, and we had 3. But now we have, actually, what you don't know is we have 5 exploits we're going to show you today. And several of them, I think, are still low days. So, anyway, so first one, this is technically still a no day because they just never fixed it. But for those of you who do or do not remember, Cassatius Coin came out in the early 2010s. They actually had a private key on like a label on the back of the key. There's a holographic film on top of the private key and like a little window. And so you can like pull out the number, like a part of the number, go to the website, and it would tell you the full public key. U.S. government didn't like that. Treasury said it was a financial instrument. They went to the guy and said, hey, you're selling all these things that are worth pennies, or like $100. We want your customer list. He says, no, I shut down company. I was with the people at DEF CON at the time who figured out you can use like Goo-Gone and other basic chemicals from like the hardware store to lift the seal up, copy the key, put the seal back, and give it to someone, and they would never know that you were in there. Well, there's another one that doesn't load it with a private key ahead of time, but it has it loadable, and they're called cold storage coin. So cold storage coin, there's going to be some audio. I have to tweak it a bit. So they send you the coin as a blank, and you can load the money on there. Now, they have a little bit more of a robust tamper-evident sticker on there, and I actually reported to them when I was handed some of these coins by a guy who is now, I can't remember his name, but the SEC indicted him for like a $750 million Ponzi scheme. The guy who handed it to me, and I found out years later he got arrested for that. I was like, oh, interesting. But he invested in this company, and we raised this from my other company, Refrecon, saying this is a problem. There's some ways you can resolve this. And they thought we were trying to jack them for money. I'm like, no, I just want you to fix it. Like literally, we're not asking for money. Just like, fix it. And they never did. So I guess this is a redisclosure. This is like years later. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to do a quick run through of how one would. So this is a very non-technical attack. You can pull in all your friends. They still sell these on Amazon. So if you want to like get the private key ahead of time, like intercept a package or 1,000 of these and put them back in the market, potentially compromise a cold storage coin's private key. Still do that. So you can order these on Amazon online. This one was ordered a few weeks ago, and I have images of me doing the attack directly after receiving it. This is the same unit, so but if someone needed this to be retested in a completely fresh environment, that's not a problem. So anyway, so the idea is that when you get one of these coins, that they are perfectly sealed and tamper evident, according to the I do promise we'll see more code in a second after this website. So basically what you would do is you would get this in the actual retail packaging. As we all know, in tamper-evident world, retail packaging isn't very strong. There's a lot of philosophies around this, but basically it doesn't really hold up. I spent a lot of time at Oregon National Lab doing a lot of this work, which taught me a lot of. I'm going to skip through it a little bit. I hate Keynote. Okay, and the idea is that you can actually observe the package. I used just a regular knife to open it up. You can glue it right back. Any known tampering, and we've done that before, and we'll happily do that again. You take the coin out. Now, as we can see here under the microscope, there isn't any actual exposure to the private key, which is around the line. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm actually going to take my glove off here, but because these are not so great vinyls. But what we're going to do is, I'm just going to actually rub my finger around the edge of the coin, which we have done on this coin before. So as you see in the video, actually, the numbers weren't coming through. But if we actually now go back and look, what is that? We can see X. Can you see where my cursor is? You're starting to see the letters pop through? Shouldn't be doing that. Okay. And put the coin back into the storage unit like so. So I just follow through to how you would surreptitiously or covertly inject these into the supply chain. And just when they get loaded, you can look online on the blockchain and just like, oh, there's a lot of money, and then rug pull. So nice little scam right there. All right. EthereumWallet.com. I'm going to keep picking up speed here. So EthereumWallet.com was created by the guy who did Jack's Liberty Wallet, one of the Ethereum Foundation founders, a self-claimed billionaire who's about the community. Was quoted in an article recently saying, I don't know how, what you guys want me to do about this, but he popped this up for a year as a beta site, and a lot of people put their money, Ethereum at the time in 2017 in there, and then the site just shut down. Now when it said, we're shutting down, please move your money to Jax, it was by an email. We have that because of a customer. And, a lot of people on Reddit and everywhere else was posting, hey, your application won't let me take my key out. Now, if you had you didn't set up a password, you can put in the unique URL you got in an email. It turns out it is a fragment of a hash. We figured that out. No one figured that out yet until we did 2 years ago. You put it in, the JavaScript code would allow you to take your keys out. If you had a password, there was a bug in the code, and you couldn't do anything. And so there's a lot of people out there, and we think tens of thousands of people who did it at the time, who are still locked out. We've been helping as people come in. We've been trying to get more awareness out there. So anyway, what we found out after I gave this talk last year was that this bug was a bit more prevalent and used in other libraries. And this was originally from a library called CryptoKit. So anyway, there are 4 versions of it. And what's interesting about this is in version 1, there's only 33 bits of entropy. So we're able to generate every key. Turns out 142 of those keys were funded. But they also had most of the money gone. I think it was like, what was it? If I recall, over 10,000 Ethereum had been through there. but like 7 are left. There are 3 other versions which we would need the actual hash to break it, and we had actually made tools for each of those. So it's an interesting thing that we found when we looked at it was that when you look at it, people are like, it's just a random string. Well, it turns out when you have a C or a P as a prefix, or D and a Q, it tells you whether it's passworded or not, and that was actually an interesting hint. But yeah, there was interesting use of JavaScript buffers that added a lot of zeros that caused problems. So that just made the key space dramatically smaller. Let's see. I'm going to keep going to the more interesting stuff, but we're going to show how fast it takes to break their wallets. Oh, that was it. As I said, there's usually 1 or 2 engineers, and it's usually a lot of people with money that hire engineers, and they don't know how to qualify the engineers to do the important things about securing people's assets. All right. Electrum wallet. This one we found very interesting. So everyone here, I assume, knows what remote code execution is in RCE. Oh, come on. This isn't Sweden where no one responds in the audience here. Everyone stand up. I know we're early. I ran already. Come on. I ran to the end of the beach this morning. I'm back. You're just getting up. All right, cool. So Electrum Wallet is one of the most popular open source wallet libraries out there in the world. This red circle on there says forks. That was last year. It's well over 3,500 forks now. A lot of major projects just fork the project and put their logo on it, like Ravencoin, BSV, which is Craig Wright, whoever knows Craig Wright, who's the real Satoshi is. That's his wallet project, or at least one of the foundations around it. They literally cloned the repo. Well, we were reviewing the code because one of our clients came in who was locked out, and we found a lot of weird dangling Python open statements in the code. And one of them related to they call the BIP70 standard, or Bitcoin Improvement I keep forgetting what it is because I'm not part of that community. But the BIP70 standard is a payment request and send QR code standard spec. And so it turns out it's just basically a URL in there. We found out that so it's a Python open statement that it sounds like a triggerable event. So when we figured this out, we found out it was on every version of every OS it released for, which is iOS, Mac OS, Windows, Android, Tails. And all the other forked versions had the same problem. So we thought it would be fun if we can, do something with it. So we found out if we just add a slash to make it from a URL to a URI, we cause a Windows machine to shoot across the LAN to a machine we own, and then we can do a NT-landman responder attack. Now, that was just the payload we wrote for Windows, and we did this in January last year on a fully patched Windows machine. What that got us was that we were able to put an interpreter shell over and get read, write, execute on the box at the same user level as the application, or steal the wallet. So we didn't automate the attack, but I'm going to put this on here. It's kind of like a really poor demo. It works. But yeah, basically, this would work if you had a payload for the other OSs. It would trigger the same way. So we didn't have any interest in actually writing for each one. Doing it on Windows was good enough for us to technically pop calced. Now, this is actually a bit of a slow demo, so I'm going to just kind of move it along here. So the window on the top left here is our remote machine that we own on the network on the same LAN. So like if you were at a Starbucks or something and you used your Windows laptop and you were on the same LAN, this attack would work in this context. So let me move along here a little bit. Okay, so what I'm doing here is we're opening the local wallet file that has the private key on the host OS, which is the one we're on. We're just shelled in just for the demo so we can just show it. If we want to make a slicker one, we would. I promise you we have slicker demos later in the talk. So right now we're scanning the QR code. Now watch the left screen really quick. Bam. All right, that's the remote machine. It actually got the hash. We're brute forcing it right now. Standard attack, you would know. If you have a different node for Windows, you can plug that in too. It's what we had off the shelf. So now that we have that, let's skip along here. So yeah, replay, go forward. We do that. Let's see here. Sorry for the screen here. Yep. Oh, we're in. Exploit, hits, lands. Great. And let's see. Doop. Let's see here. And we download the file. And just for, let me see if I can pause it at the right time here. So as you see on the left terminal, let me make it easy to read. So we're just highlighting the last few bits of the string. Like, I know you can't see it on here. The slides will be up later in the video, but it actually is matching the two ends of the string to show that we actually got the key on the remote box with that QR code. It took a few steps, but these are the types of things we're actually seeing all the time in a lot of these projects. It's just they don't have enough talent. Most of these people are really young. They're not going to conferences like this. They don't even know like DEF CON. They've heard of DEF CON or, Hack in the Box or whatever. It's just that, but they're not really familiar with attack chains and things like that. In fact, a lot of them, I was talking with Nick Percoco from Kraken, used to be TrustWave Spider Labs. And he said to me when we were trying to disclose this last year to a few folks, and he helped with this, was that a lot of these projects don't believe unless you have like a super clean, like iOS zero-click remote, like SMS attack. It's not cool. It's not going to work. But like we're seeing tens of billions of dollars stolen. So I don't know like what gives here. So anyway, so here's the thing about forking projects is each of these these are by volume of users, and I didn't count it, but I know it's over 100 million users collectively use these wallet suites. It's actually Electrum Wallet. They just changed the logo. That was it. Like if you can go into the config in those applications, they're often the same nodes in those servers. So from the earliest version of 2.1, I think this was introduced in 2017. So this vulnerability had existed for well over 7 years. So anyway, I just want to thank the guys from Immunify who do smart contract, like bug bounties, who helped us get in touch with them along with Kraken. They were really good. So if you also find bugs, those guys are great to work with. If you want an introduction, please let me know. They're just really good about making sure things get fixed and hopefully your bounties get paid because we're finding some people don't want to pay the bounties. So let's see. Trezor hardware wallets. I don't know if any of you saw recently in CoinDesk, but at Unciphered, we had extended our work and have now made an evergreen attack for both the Trezor 1 and Trezor T products by Satoshi Labs. They've had a number of problems over the years. There's been videos online, like Joe Brand did a great video showing off how to pop off a Trezor 1. And then that really blew it out in the open, which we're really happy about because Satoshi Labs has a bit of a history of using the word FUD, like a lot of people in crypto say FUD, it means don't listen. Hopefully your crypto goes up in price and then it rug pull. Satoshi Labs is interesting because they act like what we call it Unciphered, big crypto wallet, sort of like big tobacco, because their only business is to sell hardware and hopefully get other services like maybe transaction services or exchange services. So in 2019, Kraken security team posted an attack on the Trezor 1, which got patched. And they wrote a post about that, if I recall. And a number of different attacks that were similar came out about that. And one thing that really bothered us at Unciphered is a lot of these companies don't actually list, when they say they have a responsible disclosure program, a bug bounty program, what they're even going to pay you with that bug bounty program. And a lot of them require a lot of NDAs. Also, a lot of them are on like BugCrowd and HackerOne, and they say NDAs across the board, and we just don't do that. We'll go approach the CISO ourselves or the engineers and like work sensibly. Because we're finding that a lot of these cryptocurrency companies and projects use it to censor people. So it looks like their projects are more secure than they really are. When we get to the OneKey attack, you're gonna see some fun stuff that hasn't been public yet about that topic, not just the attack. So anyway, is Sick Codes in the room? No? Sick Code's not in the room? Okay. He's a good friend. He actually has if you can find him in the hallway, ask him about his Satoshi Labs bug submission and how they paid him $50. But basically, they go out anytime someone finds a new version or a different type of attack on the devices saying, oh, we've addressed this. And for some reason, journalists in cryptocurrency, they say, well, they said they addressed it, and they have no freaking clue what addressed means, and because they can't read the technical articles that they post. So they keep posting to this article in 2020, which says, oh, we understand there's these concerns about our hardware, but as long as you put a very long passphrase on it, so within the BIP39 protocol standard, where you have like mnemonic seeds or words like 12 or 24, or technically any variation you want, but the standards are 12 and 24. You add a 25th, as they call it at Satoshi Labs. Everyone has a different way of saying it. It's just whatever random word or phrase or password you want to use. And if you don't have that, it's not going to start popping up your keys that have value. And they also use it as a kind of a duress feature as they promote, so that if you go to, let's say, an airport and they say unlock your crypto hardware device, put the pin in, like, look, it has no value. And you're like, boop, and you can say, but I have a secret password, and you open it and it says like $100, but if you did a different one, it could have $3 million. And they wouldn't know. And so the problem is the attacks have been getting faster and faster and faster on these devices, yet the marketing still stays the same. And so earlier this year, we figured out a way to attack every single device permanently in 20 minutes to extract the seeds. Passphrase takes different amounts of time. But basically, we didn't go to their responsible disclosure program, which we now call responsible disclosure washing, like whitewashing, because they're using it to get ahead of the narrative when their products they're still selling are actually permanently broken. And they're saying, buy our product, put millions of dollars on it, and it's secure. So we put this little video together recently.
Hey, I'm Michaud with Unciphered.
We're to show you how little it takes to break a Trezor T now. And,
Hey, I'm Michaud with Lively Extract.
So we make little custom boards for breakout at work because it's just easier. We're moving to having like a socketed solution. We haven't published, and I know everyone's going to razz on me for this here. I promise you, I got some good stuff later. I'll give you some stuff to take home. But at this time, we're waiting for Satoshi Labs, who says they're coming out with a new chip, and they've been saying this for 5 fucking years. And they showed like, oh, we have a new chip. We're shuttling it right now. And I'm like, cool, but you're still selling Pintos that we can crack in 20 minutes, and you're calling it the most trusted, secure in the world. We don't understand this. And so we're not releasing the attack methodology until they come out with a new chip, and we see that there's no problem with it, because if we do that, we know there's a lot of kidnap and ransoms of hardware devices. Oh, I'm talking to somebody. And so we're holding on to this for a little while. Sorry, I'm talking to someone at the lab.
Got it.
So let's see here. So we call it the machine you're going to see on the left is the Beast. It's just actually a Windows laptop with like a picoscope, an IC Wave, and a bunch of other equipment on the bottom underneath the plexiglass that we cut. It's actually a bunch of different equipment. I wish I could say it was freaking simple. It's like $50,000 of hardware alone, not counting all the stuff we have to figure out in software and firmware on how to attack it. Sorry, apologies for this. I promise you the next one is going to be a little better. So one thing we did find interesting was that the way they do their hashing is really slow, and the only code on GitHub does like thousands of attempts per second or tens of thousands of attempts per second. So we wrote our own implementation for their PIN authentication implementation called Trezor Breaker. And just on 10 A4000s, we can crack from 0 to 9999, like the 9-digit PIN limit you can normally see on there, in 20 minutes. And then we have a full seed extraction. So I don't know. People keep buying these. They keep believing the hype. Who here works in cryptography? Who actually does information assurance? Anyone? No one? You're just all quiet over here. So one of the things we're actually moving towards is, which we'll talk about KeyBleed at the end, is that anytime we make anytime someone finds a way to extract a mnemonic, we call it a KeyBleed. And we're trying to make it really popular.
First, we took it out of the case, and then mount it.
Anyway, so getting to the really fun stuff. So thank you for getting through that. In case you didn't see it in the last year, here's some refresher of a different domains of what you can attack in cryptocurrency projects and products. So OneKey. So the OneKey company is out of Hong Kong, and they've been around for quite a few years, and it's like a bit of a curious case. So we didn't know who they were. They're the number one sold cryptocurrency hardware wallet in China. Period. Millions and millions and millions of devices. Probably more. We just don't know the numbers. In I think it was November last year, it came up in my news feed. Oh, cryptocurrency hardware company OneKey raises $20 million for American investors. Go to everyone in my team. I'm like, does anyone know who the hell this is? And they're like, nope. And I'm like, interesting. So I start ripping all the repos, pulling things down, start looking at it. And it turns out it's really hard to get them in the US. Like I think it comes out of a drop shipper through Amazon or something. It looks like it's in the US, but I think it's being drop shipped through like some Florida reshipper or something to start. Now they're having more here. Over the weekend, one of our engineers got really bored. In 3 days, he says, like, I think I found, and he starts counting off on the phone, 20 different vulnerabilities in their firmware alone. And I don't even have the hardware. He's like, I think one's going to be really easy, though. I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I think there's an authentication issue between the ATEC, the secure element, and the CPU and the STM. And I'm like, okay. So thing is, he's really busy because he works part-time with us, even though he's a full partner. And he got back and forth, and he figured out, I was like, yeah, it actually can work, and they don't pop the fuse when they remove it from the factory. So you're able to trick the CPU that it thinks that the secure element is not in the factory for pairing. And I'll get into all the gory details in a moment. So we do figure that out. We reach out to them, and they said, thanks for finding it. And I'll go into the story after I go through the exploit, because this is where we get into what we call bad bounty systems. So we went out to the CEO. They seemed pretty upstanding. Then it got a little weird where they said, well, $10,000, which we were paid. Thank you. It's also one of the cheapest audits I think I've ever done ever. But they said, we don't really have a lot of money. And I'm like, that's really weird, because it says in your press release, you just made $20 million. And it turns out only a few months ago, they raised another $60 million. You're going to find why that's really funny after this. So, all right. Anyway, so as you'd expect in a, crypto hardware device, you should not be able to extract the secret information, but just having physical access. But what we did find out, and this is actually our report to them to get it fixed. So there are two behaviors that, when combined, give the attacker the mnemonics or seed or the monies. First, we extract the protect key. Now, and second, we decrypt the seed using that key. Now, the protect key, in this hardware setup, is what is used to pair and encrypt the mnemonic in a key slot on the ATEC, the secure element. And so during boot, it checks that the device has been provisioned, sort of like when it mates when it gets out of the factory. Like, this is the chip I'm only going to talk to, and I'm going to share our keys. Well, it turns out that you can just lie to it. You can actually man-in-the-middle it. So, all right. So is it set? Sure. If it's not, all right, I'm going to give you my key. Let's see here. Sorry, I can't actually read my own slides on the screen. I hope you can read it. All right. So, as we're able to make the secure element, it has been provisioned, it allows us to do pretty much whatever we want. So as we're modifying the response, we got like a cheap little FPGA to sit in the middle. I have a video at the end so you can actually see it live. I was not able to bring the hardware down. I apologize. Lawyers are weird sometimes. They're like, you need a permit. I'm like, what permit do I need? And then they go point to ITAR, and I'm like, I don't want to go through that right now. I'm just going to shoot a video. So I'm sorry I don't have the hardware today. But you can do it at home. So anyway, by modifying the response from the secure element, the CPU can be tricked into believing the protect key has not been provisioned, and that's the trick. Turns out there's a few other tricks we'll cover afterwards that we didn't find, someone else found, that's even worse for OneKey. But specifically, an attacker has to change the ATCA configuration lock value such that it does not equal locked, and set the slot IO protect key bit in the ATCA configuration to 0. When the conditions are met, the CPU writes the protect key to the secure element, and that's where we steal it on boot. So in the next phase, we use the protect key to get the seed. Normally, when accessing the seed, the CPU first asks for and verifies the user's PIN, but we don't have to do that. It sends a command to the SE to read out the encrypted seed, which, when we get the seed and we have the protect key, et voila, we can decrypt the mnemonic. So, and this is how they're actually encrypting in the slots. So, since the slot key is, in this case, the protect key, and the serial number can also be obtained from the ATCA configuration, which is also used for the decryption, an attacker has everything needed to decrypt the slot that has the seed or your money, and no PIN is needed at all. when you're using when needed to send the ATCA read encode command. So after reading the response, decrypting the seed, it can be turned into the mnemonics of the wallet. So we did recommend some suggestions. This is actually what we sent to them. So like blowing the fuse, definitely a good shot. They did patch it really quickly. They did a great job. Yeah, there's different ways to do it. They chose one of them out of this. But here's a quick video demo.
OneKey is one of the biggest
this is about
hardware
like our thing.
wallet
I'm just going to skip to the non-silly. This is for like
OneKey is one of the big
Engineer to do so in
skip that
script.
part.
So
This is not for you. This is for normies.
We've
we go.
taken out the
There we go.
OneKey Mini. We have taken out the OneKey Mini. We have custom soldered on to the bus lines between the two chips so that we can man in the middle the communications and tell the OneKey that it believes that it's in factory mode by a few steps. Over here we have the FPGA. It's effectively a high-speed processor, also known as a field programmable
This is not
gate
for
array,
you guys.
and it
This
allows
is
us
for
to
YouTube.
iterate through different algorithms, but at the chip level. Over here is the USB cable for the OneKey to power it. We have these power switches so that we can turn on the devices in the correct order for us to perform the attack. Over here, the cable from the FPGA runs all the way around back over here so that it communicates to our computer, where we're running our custom code, which we have actually just stored on here on a live Ubuntu USB stick. Let's give it a shot and see how fast this actually works. So I'm going to power on the FPGA first so it can start monitoring and injecting commands. Okay, powered on. All right, I'm going to turn on our code over here. Kick it off. Yep, device is banned middling. We got this blinking over here. It's actually telling us that, yes, I'm ready to go. I'm going to power on the OneKey. Hopefully it'll work the first time, if not the second. Bam. All right. We just removed the mnemonic. We can load a wallet, and we bypass the pin on a OneKey in less than a second.
Yeah, we cleaned it up. It's actually a little faster, but just one
Thanks
boot
for
cycle
watching.
and you
We're
rip the
Unciphered.
mnemonic.
If you are
They
locked
did
out
fix
of a
it,
wallet
which
or know
was
somebody
great.
who is, contact
But
us at Unciphered.
it gets a little weirder. So they paid us on a Friday, if I recall. I have to go check. We got paid in USDC or crypto. We were writing this up for the CVE and for a blog post and for an article. And I was digging around the GitHub on their repo, and I was like, something looks a little weird, because people were asking us questions about the bug bounty program, and I looked, and it just looked different. And I couldn't put a finger on it. And so I started digging through the history, and I was like, this wasn't what I saw months ago. And it turns out it was just changed in the last few days by the CEO without telling anybody. So this is the original one. Like, looks pretty standard, like boilerplate. So we got paid 10 grand here for a maximum, like for an attack like that. But almost 7 days later, this is what it looks like. We're like, all of a sudden, this is when I looked at it, I was like, this looks nothing like the bug bounty program that I thought I was looking at. And it wasn't. It turns out the CEO went in and manually edited it. And turns out, if you go to, weirdly enough, Satoshi Labs Trezor's bug bounty program, this is their copy. The guy just copied it over and put it over here. So if you look at the P0 through P4 tiers, so going through it, it turns out that a physical attack like ours now is no longer a P0 vulnerability. We would not even get $5,000 in the bounty. But what's more interesting is the new ineligible bugs list that wasn't there before. So there's a lot of ineligible things that were not ineligible before all of a sudden after we got paid. And I wouldn't be tarring and feathering somebody if they weren't doing this after they raised $80 million when they said in an email to us, we don't have a lot of money to pay bounties. What I find the most interesting is this line right here. Can anyone read that? So remember when I said we had like 20 other vulnerabilities and we like just polished one off, and my team saw that, they're like, screw these guys. So we polished another one. We have another one sitting, but since these are not these are ineligible and not valid, and their threat model is if a physical device is stolen, that's not their threat model, then I guess it doesn't matter. And this is what I was talking about earlier about bad bounty programs, and this is what we're seeing a lot in cryptocurrency projects and companies. And so this is one of the sore spots that we're having right now, that we're working to raise awareness on this because it's losing people's life savings. So I do like the sticker that came in the pack yesterday. If anyone go in your bag, you got some stickers. This is a good one. It's a good one. To that point, who in the room knows who the Ledger crypto hardware wallet company is? Cool. Who doesn't? I want to see those hands. Who does not? You can't not do one or the other. You gotta pick one. I see like half of you didn't do anything. Terrible. All right. Well, anyway, Ledger, they have their own security teams like Apple Red Team. They're always banging on products and stuff. And they also test things in the market. They're actually really good. Donjon, known as actually, I found out in French, Dungeon. They have a really, really great security team there. And we make no claims of any quality of any product because maybe tomorrow someone finds a really silly, simple flaw in something and then we look bad. But it's just the nature of this game. We submitted a bigger talk on the OneKey attack to hardware. And we didn't get picked up, and like, cool. They said they did, and I was like, man, what else did they find? And it turns out these guys found 3 evergreen O days that can't be fixed. And so, but what I'm really upset about is that this got no coverage. Like, our stuff's cool, but this shit's even cooler. And I asked Charles, the CTO, is a friend, like we're frenemies, but like I said, like, what's your CVEs? He's like, oh, there's no CVEs for crypto hardware. I'm like, I sent ours. I'm like, yes, there is. He's like, okay, I'll file them. So I have them right there waiting for him. But it turns out what's really screwy about this is that they approached OneKey last year for 6 straight months, and they were sandbagged by OneKey, and OneKey did nothing about it and didn't really respond with anything, and nothing's changed. And now, like, hopefully people can go poke at them a little bit. But there's a lot of crypto software wallet and hardware wallet projects out there that really need to be banged on. And so hopefully with this talk, with the breadth of things that we just showed you, or I showed you from the team, you get inspired to start really digging in, and because there's going to be a lot of low-hanging fruit that all of you are already way overskilled for to find. One last thing. So the KeyBleed thing, which it said KeyBleed in the attacking the OneKey Mini. It's not exactly true. The title is not exactly true, as you can tell, as the talk has many different exploits. Is that we're launching today KeyBleed.com as a project. So all of you know, have I been pwned? Oh God, this audience sucks. No, you guys are awesome. No, seriously, who's used have I been pwned? Okay, more people have. Okay, good. All right. So, you put an email in there, or if you're doing OSINT, someone else's email. And it says, in a breach site. Well, it turns out, in history and even currently, people have been putting out releases of, crypto wallet software and hardware, that accidentally generate only 32 or 33 bits of entropy, or even 64 bits of entropy or more. And there's collisions. And so, like, there's something called Brain Wallet. That was a wonderful talk at DEF CON. The person who figured out the attack eludes me, but figured out that there was a very small key space available, and people were able to just generate a lot of wallets that had assets in them. Another one was called Profanity, was a more recent one. The most recent one that we thought that was interesting, that we actually found at the same time. So Binance, they have a product called Trust Wallet. So Trust Wallet comes in like for Android, for iOS. They also have a plugin for Chrome. Well, it turns out in November last year, they actually released they had a Mersenne twister flaw where it only had 32 bits of entropy. And I don't know the exact story in the back end of it, but I know the Ledger Donjon team found this out, and within 3 days they got it patched at Binance, but not before 3,000 wallets and change got generated that were vulnerable. What is not known about Unciphered is that we have a suite of tools called VC tools, or virtual currency tools, and part of them are key generation suite test tools, which aren't public. And we had already been looking through one of our engineers for a number of years. Even though we're only 2.5 years old, people we came to our company, have been working on this for a long time, had already been finding Mersenne twister flaws previously and wrote a generic tool for it. So we actually had a lookup table of 4 billion addresses. And all of a sudden in the middle of November, we had 3,000 wallets we didn't know whose were. And I reached out to our friends at Ledger, and I said, hey, there's this money moving in January and this other stuff. And they're like, no, it was patched back then. The only reason we knew to talk to them is because there was the responsible disclosure time ran up, and they published the vulnerability like a few months ago. And they were wondering how we knew, and I'm like, well, it's just some of the things we do here. And they put us in touch with Binance. We're chatting with them now, but for some reason, there were wallets being generated into January, even though it was patched and a new release came out. And we all don't have the straight answer on that. Not from them. They're not being a bad actor, but there is an issue with wallets where people are just cloning them and distributing them in different geographic markets. Like an Android version of Trust Wallet in Italy will not show up in the English market. So they don't know to look for it there, and people will download it and then backdoor it and take their money. And so we saw some spikes using those keys. So we don't know if the attackers were using the bad keys or it was a backdoored wallet that was released. But we saw a ton of them move at the same time to the same wallet. So we knew it was the same attacker group. So how does that tie into KeyBleed.com? We added those addresses into the database. So if you want to test if your public key is potentially vulnerable to a key generation attack, try it out. Please pass it around. So we have Brain Wallet in there, Profanity, and a significant amount of the Mersenne Twister wallet keys from that table for Binance. We actually have vastly more that we're going through disclosures right now about. You'll probably hear about something in September. That's not on the data set yet. But hopefully, if you find anything, we'd love to put you in there and credit you for that, like get like a Hall of Fame. So hopefully this sounds interesting. So, all right. That's about it for all the fun toys and stuff today. Last bit, I had to give this slide at my other conference Off the Chain because I have a lot of people hate us who are maximalists. But basically, their thesis, and I thought it was really funny, was specifically if a Bitcoin is missing, it enriches the network. And I'm like, that sounds very socialist. And then they don't like that. But we're here to really help put liquidity back in the market. One last bit. As you're seeing the things we covered, we're also now occasionally finding flaws with keys. What do you do when you find that you can generate keys sometimes and you don't know who owns them? What do you do? And we don't have that answer. And so there's responsible disclosure, but what if you see like a few $100 million sitting around? Like we have seen one time like a key loaded and emptied that we found someone used a bad wallet and we're like, holy crap. And that's happening more and more often. And so I'm bringing this up to our industry here to think about this because responsible disclosure works well for like Windows patches, Android patches, and things like that, but not for bad key generation. Because once someone generates that key once, that money's permanently there and permanently vulnerable until you move it. And I don't know what to do. We've been trying to figure this out for 2.5 years, but it's one of the big things we're thinking about, and I'd love to chat with anyone afterwards about this if you have ideas. Yeah, we just still don't have the answers. Lastly, I am but one cog in the machine. All these people had a hand in all the exploits you saw today. Tom being my co-founder, Zonk is our new director of engineering, Max Cohen, one of our cryptographers. That's it. Thank you guys. Thank you girls. Thank you everyone in between. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I hope you enjoyed the information. I hope you have some questions. If not, thanks for having me here. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much, Eric. Are there any questions? Let me come on this way.
Thank God.
There you go.
Oh, and I have a record. I finished the talk 2 minutes before this, so if it seems a little meandering, that's why.
Would the man in the middle attack be effect on the hidden wallet inside the crypto wallet?
Sorry, is mic close to mouth? Sorry.
I mean, does your method to attack the wallet will be effect on the hidden wallet inside the wallet? You mean the hidden wallet?
Sorry. So the OneKey man in the middle attack. That's sorry. I'm trying to make sure I understand your question.
Yeah. There is a hidden wallet inside the OneKey wallet.
Sorry, I'm going to repeat back to make sure I got it. There's a hardware wallet inside the OneKey wallet.
No, hardware or wallet is just a wallet protected by another password.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. Thank you. Wait, so what's the question? Now that I'm a little lost. Sorry. I'm really jet lagged. I flew in 2 days ago. I'm leaving this afternoon at 4 p.m.
So is it able to attack the hidden wallet inside it?
I think your question is like, does the man-in-the-middle attack affect the secure element inside the hardware wallet?
Yeah.
I think, is that the question? I'm sorry. Sorry, language, a bit of language power. Yes, it does. I think that answers the question. If someone can help, please. If not, here, talk to me afterwards. I'll make sure I understand your question fully. Just want to make sure I get it correct.
I know you wanted questions, so I just made one up. So with the hardware, with Ledger's work on the OneKey, I think what they had done did not require a man in the middle. I think they were just communicating to the, right? So it's a different, so you guys did is different.
Laser fault injection, some side channel analysis one, and I forgot I just pulled it up today.
Well, those were like those are STM32 ones, but then the actual one that mattered was dealing with the secure element. So your way of doing it is man in the middle, the communication after it's been initialized.
Yes.
And then they said there was two versions, one that was early firmware versions of OneKey where they weren't properly initializing it, and then when they fixed it, they had the other version that they had to then go grab the stuff from inside the STM32 before they could decrypt the key to get to the other key.
Yeah, and I saw it, I was like, that's a very novel, different attack. I was like, that's really dope.
So it is different. And then does the man in the middle work for the updated version also? Or are you basically taking advantage of the fact that the early versions weren't provisioned or locked after provisioning?
It's patched. So when they patched it, the attack does not work after, I think it was like February this year.
Yeah.
So it was all the current ones up to current. It worked, and then they patched.
Okay. Are you gonna release any at least hardware design of FPGA kind of setup or anything?
I mean, I can give you. I'll send you the link. It's just like, I think it's not on IC Wave. It's something else, but it's just like off the shelf.
Just off, cool.
Yeah, there was nothing special in that one. It was just like, what did we have around the shop for $20?
What was the interface?
I have to go pull that up. Talk to Jerry about that.
SPI or whatever, like something existing anyway that you're just.
I think it actually, because for that SC, I think it was SPI.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
I will get you the notes though.
I can keep making up questions if you need.
I know. Yeah, I'm not against this. I like this.
I'm just kidding.
Hi. Thank you very much. This is very informative. I had a question, potentially a little bit outside of the scope of this. Getting a key, however you get the key, I mean, you win, right? So,
hell or high water, hook or by crook.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're using, the algorithm doesn't XOR. Who cares, right? You got the key, you got the key. What I'm wondering is, what are you seeing as we're moving into this quantum world as far as post-quantum keys, technologies that are being used? Google just recently announced they're using some derivation of one of the NIST-approved post-quantum.
It's like Kyber or something, or
it's not
dilithium.
Kyber has some patent licensing issues. It's one of the other derivations, but it's all post-quantum lattice-based crypto. I'm wondering, are you seeing any momentum or movement surrounding the way crypto in general is being used with basically SHA-256s, ECD, SA curves? It's all going to be popped by... one of us is going to throw a credit card at Amazon or somebody, Google, and rent a quantum computer and break open a $100 million wallet. It's totally worth it. What are you seeing with that? And do you still see that the attacks that again, a key is a key. If you get it, you get it. But decrypting something like that is not going to be nearly as easy. I'm wondering where you see yourself going with that, and if you're seeing movement in the industry around lattice-based encryption for crypto.
So what I'm hearing is like, from what we're seeing, let's say from traditional, cybersecurity markets, like from banking, military, social, like SSL, like the stuff we see, we touch every day, or like cloud services. I've only been in what they call the cryptocurrency industry for 2.5 years, but when people come to me, they say, "Oh, I've been around since 2017, like in crypto. You mean like cryptography?" And they're like, and I'm like, I read applied cryptography in 99. I mean, like, what do you mean? This might sound a little, this is like a kind of a intuition I'm feeling, is the velocity at which these companies go up and down don't have the longitudinal thinking and ability and bandwidth and staff and like longevity to even matter before they're gone. So like, one is the talent that knows how to implement those things and know, like, one is, well, the other one is like, I was talking to a friend from Naval Postgraduate School who runs the CS program there. He said, like, I think, like, before, like, how many qubits matter before we can start breaking things like that? Is like the machine has to have at least 100 to 500,000 qubits. How long is that from now? We're at 50, right? 100 max. And even then, they're flaky as shit. They're not running reliably. Like, sure, but like, until you can get a machine with that scale, doesn't matter, and who's going to have those. Yes, that matters. That people are building quantum resistant networks, blockchains, things like that. But then again, it's not Bitcoin, so people aren't paying attention to it. It's all these niche little products and networks. And so the problem, I think, is that I'm seeing is, again, these companies don't last very long. The ones that do are really focusing on the really boring projects, which are important, like the underlying technologies that are like, that's going to be used. You're seeing all this flash in the pan stuff. Like, we focus exclusively on crypto wallet technology area. That's all we do. People are like, Trace stuff, and I'm like, that's someone else. But we're not seeing any of these companies. We're starting to see some, and I don't want to say who, because maybe, I don't know. I don't have any intuition that I don't have any knowledge that they are. But I see some companies emerging where that's definitely going to be part of their product line going forward in the next few years, only if they make it. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's what I'm feeling about it. The problem is this is like, it's like banks that put in $500 billion into these things, and they want their next transaction fee. So this isn't going away. But what I will say to that is there's jobs for everyone in that market, and they pay a lot better, it turns out. Because there's a vanishingly few amount of people that are actually technically competent to work on these problem sets. So hopefully you take here and it inspires you to actually go look at these things and start smashing on their bounty programs. Hopefully that answers your question. I know, I'm good for that. Anyone else?
So I think that's all the time we have, because we've got the next talk now.
Oh my God, we filled it.
Yep, perfectly. Thank you
Thanks,
very
guys.
much.
Thanks, girls.
Another round of applause.